Weißwurst, sauerkraut and a brezen is your thing, then you are on the right spot. Today we talk about Bavaria. Bavaria is one of the potentially strongest nations inside of the HRE. But before we can really start talking about Bavaria, we need to handle the situation. Bavaria is not existing in 1444 at the start date. They changed this with the update of Emperor, and after that Bavaria has been split down in 3 different states. In Munich, in Landshut and in Ingolstadt. Today we will talk about Munich and how to become Bavaria in the first 10 years. As usual, we would start talking about the mission tree. But this time I first have to introduce to you one decision. It's a natural decision from Bavaria. As I mentioned, Bavaria is not existing in the start date, but has been split down in Ingolstadt and Landshut. And on the 11th of February 1445, you will receive a personal union casus belli against your neighbors. And basically with this casus belli, you can easily form Bavaria in the first 10 years. Based on the form of Bavaria decision, there is a clear expansion tree for Bavaria. The first mission is Bavaria. So basically no other but you can do that as Bavaria. So your first mission is have 100% force limit and all provinces need to have unrest lower than 1. Be careful with lowering autonomy, it creates unrest and it will stop you progressing in the mission tree. Afterwards, the mission tree is purely about expansion. First, you need to conquer territories to the north and south, the Oberpfalz and Salzburg. Afterwards, the mission tree splits into 2 ways of conquering. One is purely in conquering like areas like Franconia and Swabia, and the other one is basically about subjugating the Palatinate. You can create a personal union casus belli against them and get the electorship afterwards. Additionally, you get the possibility to even get claims on the Cologne area, on all this kind of area in the central Rhineland. If you have the Cologne province or Cologne as a vassal, you get afterwards a personal union casus belli against Brandenburg. And with Brandenburg in your hands, it's pretty easy. You are basically the strongest power inside of the HRE because you have already 2 strong electors under your hands. Additionally, if you have the personal union on the Palatinate, the tree continues into getting the Tyrol area. This is difficult because normally Austria is the emperor and will defend its territory. So you need to be really careful when you want to progress into this area. If you are successful and have the Bregenz, Inntal, Eschtal, Linz and Trientria, at least 4 provinces of it, you get a personal union casus belli against Austria too. With the personal union secured over Austria, you get claims on all the kind of Dutch areas. And if you have claimed all kind of Dutch areas, basically there's nobody more powerful in Europe than you. And the tree of course continues into the south, basically competing against Venice. And yeah, basically if you are so far into the south with the expansion tree, there's nothing that can stop you. One thing that is important to know: nothing is telling you that you need to conquer the provinces yourself. It can be even your vassal, or if you later reform the HRE, you can basically keep all the vassals around in the HRE because you automatically fulfill the mission tree. So it's a little bit, Bavaria can play like Austria in that kind of matter if it's about unifying the HRE. Now let's talk about the second left mission tree. This is mostly about building up your military. It's about developing your capital with 225, and additionally you have 5 buildings in it. After developing, the path splits into 2 areas. One is establishing a standing army. So we basically need to build 6 regimental camps or barracks into the Bavarian area. And afterwards, you basically get more manpower and discipline 5 years and army dual gain modifier. This is pretty good, and it gives you a little bit of an extra punch if you need it. But be careful, if you become the emperor, your army size needs to be 100% of your force limit. So if you take this mission too late as an emperor, you need to build up until the limit, and you need to be able to field that army to get this kind of achievement. On the other side, there's Regal Splendor. It's basically requires you that you have your legitimacy up to 95, and you need to be in a golden age. And with a golden age, you get, of course, another little military punch, and you get prestige, prestige decays, additional splendor, and improved relations. Afterwards, it's all about drinking beer, right? It's about the Oktoberfest. Everyone knows Oktoberfest. It gets local dev cost reduction 10% for the Munich area. It's a little bit tough because you need at least a grain production of 25. Grain production 25 is not so easy to take in the beginning of the game, because looking grain production, you have something in Munich, Freising, Donauwörth, and of course, if you continue conquering the Franconian area, you have here something in Rothenburg, Swabia, Stuttgart, and Urach. But actually, it's a little bit limited. There is an event that allows Ingolstadt, instead of producing wine, grain. It's a beer event. Pretty nice, and it additionally gives you some good produced modifier. Now back to the mission tree. After the Oktoberfest, there's only one mission. It's called Bayerisch as Leitkultur. I even can't pronounce that, and I'm German. So, you know, these Bavarians have really, really funny accent. At least for a guy like me who comes from very far in the north. Please excuse me, Bavarians. I don't mean it in a bad way.
So ein Saupreis.
The left part of the mission tree is all about show piety, so basically being very religious. And it's actually very easy. You just need to have a papal influence of 100, and the Pope needs to like you. If you move away from Catholic, this kind of thing changes. I would not recommend it. I really would recommend, as Bavaria, stay Catholic. The buff that you get is a little bit boosting. It gives you additionally tolerance of true phrase and mercenary strength. Because the next one, spread piety, is really about that you eliminate the Reformation. So you need to have at least been 50 years around the Reformation, and afterwards no neighboring country follows a heretic religion. So you basically need to convince your neighbor by arms to move back to the true belief of the Catholic. And afterwards you get another moral boost, you get diplomatic reputation, and additionally you get relation boost with all your direct neighbors. And afterwards you can basically climb Bayerisch as Leitkultur, Bayerisch as Leitkultur, and it means that you need at least 500 development. One thing that I missed out for the Regal Splendor is it tells you need to be a kingdom. As you know, Bavaria is a duchy, so you cannot become a kingdom. But as soon as you claim the Palatinate electorship and have 300 development, you can become a kingdom. So keep that in mind. The last part of the mission tree is straightforward. The deal with the Illuminati comes really, really, really late into the game, because you need to have embraced the Enlightenment, and as you know, it happens very, very late in the game. Afterwards, of course, trading, being a defender of phrase, and this is the normal one that every HRE miner gets. It's about becoming the emperor, defend the emperorship, and afterwards defend the emperor, conquer all kind of provinces that are not yet part of the empire or have been subjugated by evil neighbors. We have talked about the mission tree. Let's continue talking about the estates. For the estates, you really need to take care of your first mission. I would summon the Diet as the first thing in the game. You normally get this mission. Have a good relationship with the Pope. Take this one, always. Because we want to ally the Pope as fast as possible. If you have allied the Pope and have good relations with them, he will give you a cardinal that will help you with spreading Renaissance later on. Privileges, we do the usual stuff. For clergy, we give out the religious state. We give out additionally the Clerical Advisory Council, and additionally we give out the richest diplomats. Later in the game, as soon as we have a cardinal and 20 influence in the curia, we give out the papal emissary. It helps us to develop more papal influence. For the nobility, we give out the primacy of the nobility, increased levies, aristocratic councillors. And in 103.4, nobility officer corps have joined the game. We will take them too as soon as we have 30 army tradition. Later on, if you have the possibility to get 2 vassals, don't forget to take strong duchies. We already start with one, it's Passau. Continuing talking about the brokers. The brokers, we take the land of commerce, patronage of the arts for the prestige boost, and additionally commercial advisory boards. And we take another one. We take monopoly on glass. We have a glass province. It's located in Straubing. Straubing has a good chance that it will become producing gems in the future. I will show you how. You just need to have 15 development and 50 prestige. And with Bavaria, it's pretty easy to farm the prestige and additionally have the 15 development. Don't forget after the estates to seize land that we get back our land. Let's talk about the first steps after the estates are set up. The first thing, we need to fulfill our mission. For that, we just spend or buy indulgence from the Pope. With that, we should have automatically 100 relations, though they will like us. Second thing is, you will royal marriage Austria. Sometimes you can ally them, but sometimes not. So start with the royal marriage, because we need to make sure that we have an alliance with them soon. Next thing is what you do. You ally Württemberg. With Württemberg as alliance secured, the next alliance would be Trier. In the meantime, you have 1 day until the diplomats come back. Don't forget to hire the free company. One thing that is important you should keep in mind is if Ingolstadt or Landshut allies Austria, you can restart the game because it's not worth to wait. Additionally, Bavaria is starting with a free merchant. Put him into Krakow and transfer trade power. Wait 1 day and ally Trier. As you see, we automatically fulfilled this mission with a papal influence. That's good. After the alliance with Trier, it's basically a waiting game because we need to wait for the 11th of February. You can set rivals. I would recommend you set Ingolstadt and Landshut as rivals and keep the third one open until you know who these both guys allied, because sometimes they ally one you can rival to, and afterwards you can basically get a PU on one of them and on the other one you can humiliate them for the H goals. As I mentioned, this is now a little bit lucky. We need to hope that neither Ingolstadt or Landshut have strong allies. So let's wait for the 11th of February. 1 month has passed. I was pretty lucky. Ingolstadt is only allied with Augsburg and Landshut is only allied to Ulm. So I guess on the 11th of February I will rival additionally Augsburg. So that's the event I was talking about, the Bavarian succession. It basically allows us that we get a restoration of Union casus belli against your neighbors. So that is our chance to immediately attack them and annex them for very cheap aggression expansion. Additionally, don't forget to improve relations with the emperor because it helps you to ally them faster. In my case, I was able to ally them just 1 day before. So as you can see, Ingolstadt is allied to Augsburg. So now I will set Augsburg as my rival. and on the 1st of March I will attack them. One thing that you can do is to check out if you have a military advisor like morale of armies or discipline. I don't have that. If you have, just hire him because it makes the fight a little bit easier. On the 1st of March we will attack Ingolstadt. We always start with Ingolstadt first. The good thing is, if you declare them, normally Württemberg helps, but Trier wants to help. So we call in additionally Trier for promising of territory. Augsburg will join in too, that's nice, so let's beat them up. Don't forget to make your ruler a general, because as you have already realized, your ruler is pretty garbage. He's only a 2-2-2-2. And after the wars, we additionally will disinherit the son. Now let's first win the first war. Sometimes during the war, it could happen that Landshut is additionally going for the restoration of Union Castle's Belly. That's actually very good for us, because they declare war against soon one of our vassals, personal unions, and we do not need to declare against them, and we do not need to fight one of their allies. So this is actually very good. But let's first beat up Augsburg and additionally Ingolstadt, and then I will show you how to deal with Landshut afterwards. By the way, that does not need to happen for you. It could be even worse that more parties engage in the war. For example, sometimes at Salzburg, Regensburg, Ansbach, they all want to have something from Ingolstadt. The first year took 2 years, so now it's time to do as mentioned. For Augsburg, we get war reps, transfer trade power, humiliate. Additionally, we take all the money we can get. Regarding Ingolstadt, we will form a union with them and of course take all their money. And in the moment when that happens, Landshut and me, we will at war. Now we are at war with Landshut. And additionally, we can call in. It took another 2 years and now Landshut is finally down, and I even called in all my other allies because somehow my vassal was able to white piece out the war. Looks like a new bug in 1.34. If it happens for you, please leave me a comment. But for now, we have won Landshut, and additionally, we can't form a personal union with them because they attacked our vassal, our personal union. So what we do is we vassalize them, because it's not checking if we have them in a personal union or if we just own them as vassals. So right now the national decision is available from Bavaria, because as I mentioned, we own Landshut, we own Ingolstadt, and now we can form Bavaria. And we are Bavaria, and we inherited all lands for free in simply 4 years, not in 10. Going forward, that allows us to immediately get this kind of Bavaria United mission, take it, and afterwards it's time to expand in multiple directions. As I mentioned, we wanted to ally the Pope. We still cannot do that, we need to wait a little bit, but we will continue improving relations with them. Our next war goals will be the Palatinate. We need to take back Oberpfalz, and additionally we need to take Salzburg. Salzburg is sadly allied to Austria. That makes our life a little bit harder, and we have to find a way around it. So in the meantime, we could go, for example, for other small minors, like we can go for Württemberg, we can go for Oberpfalz, and I guess Oberpfalz will be our next goal. And again, we can call in some of our allies to make our life easier, and that's exactly what we will do. But first, don't forget to make all of your territory states, lower autonomy, and wait a month. With more lands in our hand, we were able to recruit more troops. So if I hire build up right now just 5 additional infantry. Additionally, because we have 64 prestige now, it's time to disinherit our heir. And we will additionally hire one of the mill guys. I will just take the land force guy for now. We just need the point. And additionally, we can hire now more troops, now 18, and we can set new rivals. Go for the Palatinate as a rival. And if you have relation slots free, we don't have, the next ally we will find will be Saxony. Troops are built up. Time to declare against the Pfalz, the Palatinate. Call in our allies. It will be an easy war. It will be even, but it will be easy for us. Every time when you're victorious against one of your neighbors, always make sure you get all the prestige, super peace and the rivalries if possible, and get war reps and peace them out. Prestige is very important to reduce aggressive expansion inside of the HRE. And don't forget, we need 50 prestige for the faceting event. In my war, for example, I beat up just right now Frankfurt. Maybe you remember we put our first merchant here in Krakow. It's time to place him now into the Rhineland area, because for Frankfurt we will not ask to end rivalries, we're asking to transfer trade power. And the Rhineland area is actually pretty powerful. Right now we collect here 0.19. As soon as we have Frankfurt declaring trade power to us, it will be much better for us. Transfer trade power, war reps. Additionally, we will make him end the alliance with the Palatinate. And now we get 0.55, so it's way better. From the Palatinate, we only get Oberpfalz, nothing else, because we need to have this war on a short cooldown to be able to declare soon against them again. In my situation, I have right now a problem. I cannot expand any other territory. Normally, I would declare against Salzburg to make sure that I have the needed number of provinces, 10, to expand into the Palatinate with the casus belli for the personal union. I'm really happy that Württemberg is removing our alliance, so maybe they will be our next victim, because they are only allied to Rotenburg, and if they break up the alliance with us, we are on a 5 years truce, so I can declare against them. So it's time to build up a spy network against them. In your case, always look out if you can just get Salzburg, Regensburg, or maybe even Augsburg in as your 10th province. For me, it's like right now a slight deadlock. Additionally, you should be able to ally the Pope. Do it and hope that they give you very soon a cardinal. Thanks to the alliance with the Pope, he gave me a cardinal. That's very nice of him. Thank you. And Renaissance spawned pretty late for me, 1453. That's good. As soon as a new Pope comes in, the cardinal will spread the Renaissance. That's good for us. Don't forget, as I mentioned, to have the papal emissary. That gives you more papal influence. And that happened just 1 year later after the institution has spawned, Renaissance. The Pope is now spreading the institution, and we have a cardinal in Munich. So easy for us, we will have the Renaissance pretty fast. As soon as the first government reform is available, we will do something funny. We will not take the strength nobility, we will take curtail the noble privileges. We will go for tax modifier. Yes, you heard right, tax modifier. Tax modifier has actually been buffed pretty much. So you get 15 national tax modifier here. Additionally, there comes later down something called regional councils that gives you state edicts. And the state edict for the age of discovery is additionally 33% tax. With the state and religion, you get additionally plus 33% for local tax modifier and local unrest for temples. And Bavaria has tax inside of the mission tree. We will take later economy too, so you have a tremendous amount of tax modifiers available. So I will go for tax now. If you are not happy with tax, you can go with something else. You can go for strengthen the noble privileges or the noble officer corps. It's up to you. Don't forget, as soon as you have more than 30 army tradition, pick up the nobility in the officer corps. Your army tradition will decay way slower and generals cost less. In May 57, I'm finally able to attack Württemberg. Additionally, my cooldown with the Palatinate is ending in 57 October. So this is actually a very good combination to claim the personal union. And as you can see, I have one of the missions ready, the Imperial Ambition. We will do that because we try to become emperor as fast as possible. So right now Saxony is supporting us and Trier, but we make sure that others will follow. So additionally we ally Saxony even if it is one above our relation slots. If you have enough power with the Pope, I would recommend you take as first idea the Blessed Ruler, because it gives additionally 10% morale for another punch and +1 prestige. As second, you can go for levy the church tax for another 15% national tax modifier. Woohoo, it gets more tax. Or you take the dip rep. I will take for now the Blessed Ruler. We have been victorious against Württemberg. And what we will do now is we take one province to have 10 provinces, and additionally we vassalize them and take of course all the money. With that I have got the requirement for the personal union, and additionally I can take out now the idea of strong duchies from the estates. So let's see who has been who's allied to the Pope, Palatinate. It's Ansbach, Baden, Magdeburg. So basically 3 minors. What we will do now is we get the personal union mission against them. And we will declare, of course, immediately. And people can help us? Yes, of course. And the war gets faster. I'm, by the way, able, thanks to the Pope who has spread the Renaissance into my area, to get Renaissance immediately. So what I will do now is I take out the burger loans. That will help me to create all the kind of money, and I introduce it, check, done, and afterwards I can take up. Because we have now Renaissance and we have 93 prestige, what we will do now is we will dev up Straubing to 15 development. With 15 development we will be able to spawn faceting. Done with the Palatinate, only 16 years after game start we have them in a personal union that can go faster, but I like to do it always this way. So what will we do next? The next thing is we can of course accept the mission tree, and because we are allied to Austria, they will normally always transfer it immediately to us. And excellent news, we are now an elector. With the electorship we can now basically vote for ourselves. But my ruler sadly died, and I have 3 more years until my Loveland Regent changes seats with my heir. So, and afterwards I can vote for myself. And by the way, here it is, faceting. Now Straubing produces not glass anymore, it produces lovely gems. And yeah, with gems we have a better trade good, right? It's now 5 instead of 3, and additionally it gives us a bigger tax modifier, so more tax in that province. Time to build up the temples, guys. Third step, after securing the Palatinate we will do Cologne, but for Cologne it's actually not so easy, because in my game normally there are 3 ways how I can do it. I vassalize Nassau and then take Berg and Cologne, or I directly go for Cologne. If I am the emperor, I just take this one single province, and if I can't neither do that, there's even the option to just subjugate them, because I have claims on the territory, and I can release Paderborn to make the aggressive expansion a bit lower. Nevertheless, it's a lot of AE because you vassalize an elector. So What we need to do now is we chill a few years, build up our economy, and afterwards we declare against Cologne. It's 1466. I think it's time now to go against Cologne. Aggressive expansion, cool down a little bit. It's only 20 now. Let's see how that works against Cologne. Let's declare war against them. It will be a heavy fight because there will be a lot of enemies. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure we can beat them. As soon as the age objective pops up, go of course for your aggressive expansion reduction, justified wars. Idea-wise, I would go with that ruler 262 because he's very strong and diplomatic. I would go for the espionage ideas as first thing, because minus 20% aggressive expansion is something that is really good, and as a second idea we can tweak later, still offensive, and nevertheless we will claim the emperorship for us, just allying the electors. They have elected me as a new emperor, thanks a lot, and now basically I'm the strongest power in Europe. Let's see how that goes. Sadly, the Burgundian inheritance happened. I was not able to ally them, but they have joined the empire. So that's good for us. And now it's basically a smooth road up to getting the PU on Brandenburg and keeping all your vassals loyal and just make sure that the reformation will not happen. When you vassalize or subjugate Cologne, additionally free up Paderborn. I freed up Osnabrück for Münster so that we have more princes in the HRE. More princes help us with imperial authority generation. So for now we have only get 22 aggressive expansion for getting Cologne. Afterwards we try to inherit as soon as possible Württemberg, and now we go for Brandenburg. After the war you should be stronger than Austria. So that's the moment in time when we rival Austria, and let's see if we find another good ally. It could be Burgundy is pretty strong in my case, France is an option, or even England. I think for now, if I look at the rivalries, I think I will choose France because they rival them too, but in your case it could be different. Immediately after Cologne is secured, we can do rally against Brandenburg. We will do that. Let's go for Brandenburg now. The war is over, so we can create a personal union now with Brandenburg. In my case, Ansbach and Bayreuth are personal unions of Brandenburg too. They will become your junior partners too. Next war goal after securing Brandenburg is actually going for Salzburg and Austria. In my game, Salzburg is still allied to Austria, so we will go and take Salzburg now. And basically then with that we draw in Austria into the war and we can weaken them already. Sooner or later you will hit the third government reform. We will take regional councils as mentioned, because then we get a lovely state edict. We can get foil taxes edict plus 50% local tax modifier. So right now we get 9.08 from taxes, 36.3%. So let's bump up the taxes, right? Taxes are good, I've heard, for everyone. And now it is after, no, it's already 10.76, so 1.8 more ducats. That's pretty amazing, and I like it. So to make sure to claim the throne of Austria, we first need to weaken them a little bit. So it's 1479 now. We get these 3 provinces from them. We make sure we release the Tyrol area. Afterwards we attack Vorarlberg, Bregenz, and afterwards we can claim the throne of Austria. So that will be the next wars. With the war done, we are able to get the next mission for get the restoration casus belli against Austria. And Austria has already no chance, so basically by the end of the 15th century, 1495, we will have Austria under our control too. So and that's basically the main mission tree, getting as many personal units as possible. I think that's enough for the expansion wars, because you pretty easy see how fast and easy it goes. So let's talk a little bit more about the ideas. So Bavaria in general has legitimacy, production efficiency, prestige, papal influence, tax modifier, discipline, army tradition. And on top of that, they get some cavalry combat ability and plus 50% chance of a heir on development cost. So I think this mixes up pretty well with espionage, because espionage helps you to, in doing the mission tree, to keep low the aggressive expansion. And additionally, because you don't have any kind of diplomat bonus or anything in your mission tree, the diplomat is helping you a lot to keep relations up. Offensive, on the other hand, because I mentioned we have here discipline and army tradition. Offensive, on the other hand, could be exchanged for quality if you want to like to go for quality, because quality and espionage have a nice bonus too. They give yearly army tradition decay. But with offensive, you get another diplomat and you get spy network construction. In 1.34, I think spy networks and additionally the espionage ideas are pretty good, though I like them a lot. A third idea, I would recommend economic. Economic has been nerfed, as you all know. It only gives minus 10% development cost. But with the Bavaria ambition, minus 10%, you have minus 20. And additionally, don't forget, there's this Oktoberfest where you get additionally minus 10% in Munich area. So I think developing is pretty easy. To complete the guide, we need to speak about the government reforms. You start, of course, as I mentioned for my guide, with the court and noble privileges, because taxes are pretty good. Afterwards, you get the regional councils until you have 25 provinces. If you have 25 provinces, you change to centralized monarchical bureaucracy. Because right now there is an option every time when you spend 50 government reform progress and 50 admin power to get this back to level up your states. I think it's pretty nice to have it. For the state and religion, you need to get temple expand rights because it gives you more tax power. Additionally, your admin advisor costs get cheaper. For the tier 5, I would go for the meritocratic recruitment. Advisors are cheaper, that's always nice. Combine this with your espionage ideas, you have already minus 25%, so they're pretty much affordable. For tier 6, you can choose for the aristocratic court, because with my build you lack a little bit dip rep, and here you have some, and you get army tradition. Or you could go for the general estates, that gives you faster progress. Afterwards, it's basically up to you what you pick, because the game will only get easier and you will be pretty much advanced into the 16th century. Absolutism is key in the 16th century, don't forget that. So what are the expansion routes after you have Austria as a PU? The first thing you should aim for is basically Denmark. Denmark has Holsten as a province, and you can steal Norway as its subject. Additionally, Norway has the same ruler family as Bavaria, so it's the Wittelsbach. And with Wittelsbach you can basically get them. So if Sweden is independent or still a union, this is an option for you too. So you basically can do a lot of stealing inside of Europe. If you want to play the HRE game, it will be a little bit slower, because normally you will only have one reform by the end of the 15th century as Bavaria, because you're not Austria. And if you're able to have until 1520 this absolute Reichsstabilität, you can basically expand the empire and will grow faster. HRE game as Bavaria is possible and it makes fun, but it's a little bit slower. Just remember, you need a lot of princes inside of the HRE to have a faster gain. And make sure that you stop the reformation as fast as possible. You have, with espionage, enough diplomats and enough vassals inside of the HRE to put claims on. One more thing we need to highlight are monuments. As Bavaria, you do not get so much imperial authority per month as Austria or even Bohemia. But There are two monuments in your range that you can attack and get for you. One is in Prague. You should aim for that very early in the game, because with this kind of bonuses you get an insane amount of imperial authority. The second one is over here in Ulm. It basically gives you additional imperial authority from free cities. Go for them early in the game, because they will be very beneficial for you. Summarizing the early game. It's Munich. You should start and claim the personal unions over Ingolstadt and Landshut as fast as possible. Afterwards, hopefully your game goes smooth and fast. Go for Oberpfalz and Salzburg. In my game, as you have seen, it was more difficult, but I was still able to secure my personal union over the Palatinate in the first 20 years. You need to do the same. Subjugate Cologne. Afterwards, go for Brandenburg personal union. The next step is Austria. If you have Austria, the world is yours. As usual, I hope you liked what you hear. I hope I gave you some kind of directions how to move forward as Bavaria. The game in the HRE is always different, so don't see it as a textbook, see it more as an inspiration. Nevertheless, thank you for watching, and if you liked it, please leave a like behind and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. And additionally, spread the word, right? If you want to have more advanced nation insight of the HRE, please leave me a like behind and give me a comment. I will soon do it. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.